Leading change requires managing the emotional and power dynamics that emerge in times of rapid, complicated, uncertain change. Lisa Sobrato-Sonsini said, "When you have a team that has done things in a certain way for a long time and is trying to embrace new ways of working, it can be challenging." Can you identify one unspoken rule, legacy program, or product in the workplace that people don't talk about even though there are obvious problems associated with it? What are the risks and implications by not doing so? What might happen if we challenge that? And what are the potential benefits? Leaders need specific skills to manage the emotional and power dynamics that emerge around change. At any given time, we are either leading or being led by rapid change. Change agility is a strategic differentiator for both leaders and organizations. Depending on your role in an organization and the type of change you need to implement, your role in leading change will vary. In some instances, you may be a change sponsor, and in others, a change implementer. When you are the change sponsor, you communicate the strategic reasoning for the change and how it will further the organization's mission. When you are the change implementer, you engage your team to determine how to implement the change and how that will impact their day-to-day work. Consider what your experience has been in either of these roles leading change. Finally, you have an important role to play while enabling your organization to become more change agile. Whenever you design a new process or introduce a new policy, you can influence how easy or how difficult the policy or process will be to change in the future. Designing with change in mind is an important component of a strong leading change skill set. In the introduction to Leading the Learn, Lead, Lift Way video series, Wendy introduces the concept of VUCA, which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Leading change in a VUCA context can feel especially intimidating if we don't know how to plan around uncertainty. It requires us to be highly adaptive in our thinking and planning. Our reward is that we grow more, and we grow faster when we do. Wendy also wrote in Learn, Lead, Lift, "In a VUCA world, uncertainty does not mean certain failure. Instead, we can choose to view it as an incredible opportunity to grow our leadership capacity through constant adaptation." I invite you to think of a time when you had to make decisions and plan even though there was a lot of uncertainty. Think about what you learned from the experience that would help apply to leadership. Leading change is a critical skill for all leaders. Here are some key considerations. VUCA challenges the notion of control and order. Organizations are constantly changing in anticipation of or in response to internal and external pressures. When we say that VUCA challenges the notion of control and order, we mean that the longer the timeline for a plan, the more flexible and adaptable it must be. This can feel chaotic for many leaders. Their knee-jerk reaction will be to try and assert order and control to tame the chaos. But you can't tame VUCA through rigid processes and protocols. The idea that any leader can create a long-term plan, then faithfully execute it as is unrealistic. What you can do is build more flexibility into your plans, processes, and operations. For example, you can add buffer windows to project schedules during which times your team will meet to assess and adapt the plan. Instead of a set it and forget it approach, we encourage leaders to work toward mindful momentum. Mindful momentum involves making progress through a series of shorter bursts of activity, then reassessing and making adjustments to the plan before taking another series of steps. Organizations often implement many changes simultaneously, and change saturation for people is a real risk. The higher the level of change saturation, the longer it will take for a change to be implemented and the greater the risk it will fail. Try to recall a time when you tried to implement a change at work and it backfired. Then, think of what you would have done differently knowing what you know now. When it comes to integrating leading change, build your individual tolerance for change and uncertainty and help others to acquire the tools they need to do the same. Then, float your goalposts. How will you build your tolerance for uncertainty and change? What will floating your goalposts for a current or recent project involve? What steps will you need to take to implement this? What is one thing you're committed to doing to enhance your skill set in leading change?